Hunting season has begun. Here's your look at the new Lanard Toys Predator Collection Hunter Series Berserker Predator. Predators, the most deadly and elusive hunters in the universe, have now chosen Earth as their otherworldly hunting ground. Special forces, police, and intelligent operatives are now aware of these deadly creatures have united to track them down. But who's really tracking whom? Utilizing advanced alien technology, these deceptive extraterrestrials have an array of weapons for any situation or environment. From dense tropical jungles to concrete-laden cities, the unseen predators stalk their prey, will only leave with trophies in hand. Test your mettle and choose your predator. Grab them before they disappear. Let the hunt begin. If you'd like to hunt these down for yourself, would like to know maybe how tall the Lanard Predator figures are, let me be the one that adds the little bit of extra 411. We're going to go ahead and measure off to the very top of the Berserker's head, stopping it right there. According to the readouts, misleadingly tall, I would say, for these figures. The Berserker Predator stands surprisingly at 7.5 inches in height. We can switch that to centimeters, revealing that Berserker Predator is almost 20 centimeters. That's pretty crazy. What's also a bit crazy is the fact that, unfortunately, I had to pick up all of these new Lanard Toy Predators, Aliens and Predator, from eBay. Because unfortunately, even though they are Walmart exclusives, here in Canada it doesn't seem to be the case at all, and I couldn't find squat. With that being said, the Berserker Predator comes with one lone accessory, and I do want to just move the figure over for one time being, and actually move over his accessory for one moment. And I just want to bring in the packaging. Why I'm bringing in the packaging is I want to show you on the back here, it shows Specialty Hunter Weapons. And of those weapons, he comes with a Smart Disc, Plasma Bazooka, Electro Claw, and Combi Stick. The thing is, though, he doesn't come with any of those. He only comes included with the Plasma Bazooka that we're going to be looking at in a second. I guess the intended plan is with the Specialty Hunter Weapons is collectively, if you are going through and buying up all the Lanard Toys Predator figures, then you're going to get all of those accessories that they list on the back. But the way that they've actually done it, they put it right underneath the 25 points of articulation. Yeah, that figure has 25 points of articulation, but they put the weapons right below it. So you almost even think that he should come with all of those things, when in actual fact, he doesn't. Just something I want to throw out there. So I'm going to go ahead and move that out of the way, because we don't want to have the packaging in this entire review. Let's move the figure back here. He does come included with the Plasma Bazooka, and that's it. It's quite large, I must say. A little too excessively large, if you ask me. But it does look like, to the credit of Lanard Toys, that they did mold this all in silver plastic rather than actually painting it. At least it does look, at least to me, like they've molded using silver plastic. But it does actually fit onto the figure, and doesn't fit in his hands. Like a bazooka, it's going to go onto his shoulder. Well, I guess that's not true, because rocket launchers you could hold in your hand. But this actually is going to replace his plasma caster shoulder-mounted cannon. So what you're going to do, is you're going to grab the figure, like that, move his head just slightly to the side, and he already has a smaller, more manageable, I feel, little cannon on his shoulder, which is probably going to be the way I'm going to display the figure. But if you want to go that little bit of excess, a little bit too big for his britches, you can go ahead and go this route as well. All you have to do is just take this. Now, this is on a ball joint. I will say that they're very difficult to get back onto the ball joint, but to take this off, I find it's actually easy just to pry back on it until it frees itself from the ball socket. Then you're going to go ahead and take the bazooka. And like I said, this isn't easy because these ball joints are really big. Push down a little bit of pressure, bingo bango. You've got yourself a superposable plasma bazooka, which again, I feel is a little too big for the likes of Berserker. I feel like he's compensating a little bit, but because it does attach to the ball joint, it does give you a little bit of afforded articulation. So it does move up, down, and all the things that a ball joint would give you. It's okay. I appreciate the fact that they did give us something. They could have just phoned it right in, just gave us the figure itself, which, I mean, really, not saying anything bad to these figures. These figures are really good, but at least we get some accessory. I think it's a little too big for my liking. I'm going to go ahead and pop that back off, just like that. The smaller thing is a little harder to get on there. I mean, I've tried just pushing it down. I find at the end of the day, it's a little easier just to kind of wiggle it back and forth as you're pushing down on it. There we go. And you'll hear a nice satisfying snap. That's more like it. I think that's a little easier to manage than something big like a plasma bazooka. But again, appreciate the fact that we did get ourselves an accessory. We'll put that to the side, even though packaging says we were supposed to get a lot more. Moving along, get a closer look here at Beserker Predator. You know, really, and going back to something I mentioned about having to order these all online, I ordered a whole ton of these Lanard toy Predator and Alien figures. There's going to be a whole bunch of reviews coming your way. Keep your peepers peeled for that. But I will say, to the credit of Lanard Toys, these toys have impressed me a lot more. I went in with such very low expectation because I almost even thought like Lanard toy being like a lesser grade, because at one point they were sort of a lesser grade G.I. Joe. Less articulation, bigger, bulkier looking molds. But, you know, honestly, having these Predator figures in hand, at least the one that I've looked at so far with the Beserker, and of course looking at the other ones that I already have in the packaging still, really impressed with these. I'm impressed with the fact that you get as much posability as you get from these, and the fact that the detailing is really good on these. I mean, case in point, when we look at Beserker's head, for example, like in the Predator's film, he does have that lower jaw piece, which is a separate part, but it's still part of his helmet. It looks good. I mean, they painted it pretty good. I mean, like, I would say like maybe the copper as well as the lower jaw probably could use a little bit of extra paint, but it's not to say that you probably couldn't take a dry brush with a little bit of darker color and just like washed over top of that to bring out some of those details. I don't know if it's the plastic though, but you'll see like there's all these lines running across the top of Beserker's helmet. I'll have to see if that's the case with all the other Lanard Predator figures, or if it's just specifically this one. I can't think that somebody has actually taken the time to draw those all in. Again, I think it's more the marbling of the plastic that they actually use. You can see like there's some real visible lines on the forehead here, or at least of the helmet forehead. But overall, again, I'm pretty impressed with this, all things considered. You spin this around to the back. You've got the dreads here. Now, unfortunately, I didn't paint any of the ringlets here. They're all done in still that same black plastic. And this is all, even though it technically looks like it's all separate, it's only really separate along the bottom here. This is all molded together on the top, and it's basically just fanning out at the bottom where they're separated from one another. About halfway up, you'll see that they all become the same mold. Again, I don't expect them necessarily to add individual strands of hair or strands of dreadlocks. Again, I would have just wanted a little bit of gold. Could I go in there and add a little bit of gold? Of course I can. I'm competent. I'm able to. I'm a grown-up. I could go in there, add a little bit of gold to those ringlets. But overall, like, the hair looks pretty good on this, as well as the rest of the body. I mean, when you're looking at real closely at these, I wouldn't say necessarily they're on par with NECA, for example, but they're pretty gosh darn close. They're missing, of course, the paint. I think the sculpting is on par, but I think it's really the fact it doesn't deliver as much the paint, where you're looking at this and it feels like it kind of plays second to something that we would get from NECA Toys. It's a nice big bulky figure, like, to its credit. You got the nice gold there, not only on the shoulder area of its armor, but also here on the gauntlets. Sadly, unfortunately, they don't paint the inside of it. They only paint the one side, as you can see right here, but completely decide to leave off the paint at the further back area of the forearm. Again, it's a very small, minor point. Again, they missed the paint here on the side. So you get it in some places. You get it, I feel, in 3/4 of the places on the figure. And then there are some areas that unfortunately just sort of get left off the mix. Then you've got this kind of leaf patterning motif across the chest here, done in green with a little bit of red on the front. That's nice. I like that as well. You get lower down, you got the skirting all done in softer plastic. Now this is a separate piece. You literally can actually shift this up, revealing kind of the basics, the building blocks of what that figure looks like underneath this. Like I said, this is just a plastic piece that goes over top of it. A little further down, again, a lot pretty good paint here. Not really much paint anywhere else. So like all the body, for example, gets this, but then everything else is sort of just left to the basic plastic, and that's fine and good. It doesn't have to be everywhere. For where it is, it's actually painted on pretty good. Then, of course, we get a little further down to the bottom ends of the feet. Few areas, yes, are left off, sadly, right here on the back. But, you know, at least where they applied the paint, it's done clean. As you see, one of the issues with this figure, he's got slightly loose knees. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But like the copper applied paint is done in a way that it's clean. It's very well applied. You can see he doesn't have peg holes in the undersides of his feet. But overall, like, the figure seems to stand pretty good. I mean, proportionately, he kind of looks like, honestly, a cross between like a NECA Predator figure and almost like a Masters of the Universe. Like, I could almost see it, sort of a line in between that. And really, generally, quite impressed with this line so far. I know, really, we're only looking at this first figure. And of course, the aliens could be a completely different, thing altogether. But overall, I'm pretty impressed with how this one turned out, especially when we have a look at its posability. So according to the packaging, this thing touts 25 points of articulation. So his head, for example, rotates back and forth. And while, again, I would have just written this off as something that would have just been a pegged swivel, instead, pleasantly surprised to see it actually has a ball joint. So you can move the head up, down, left, and right. And technically, I suppose you could rotate it all the way around, but of course it's going to butt up against the side of that plasma caster. The plasma caster also is on a ball joint. Because of that, it can move back and forth, up and down. I know we already kind of talked about that when we looked at the plasma bazooka. Little excessive. The arms hinge out. And as I'm moving the arms, they almost seem like they've got a ratcheted joint. I think it's more so just the fact that the joint's just, I don't know if it's, it doesn't look like there's a ratcheted joint on the inside. And yet, while I'm moving the arm, I feel like I'm kind of hitting points on the plastic joint. I don't know if you can even see that or not. But the arms move forward, the arms move back. Like I said, they're a little bigger on the bulkier side of things. It does have the bend at the elbow, single bend, rotates back and forth. You can also rotate the hand all the way around. Just be careful of that gauntlet blade, which I didn't really spend a whole lot of time talking about. Yes, the hands will be butting up against that blade. You can see it. There's the blade right there. Very simple, basic gray plastic. Doesn't get really much anything else on top of that, but that's more than enough, I feel, for me. Then, of course, the upper torso is on a ball joint. I say, of course, again, I really was going into this thinking that they would just have straight swivels, straight swiveled arms, that kind of stuff you would expect from, again, I don't want to say like a lesser grade toy line, because again, I've really been impressed overall with what Lanard's been putting out for Predator and Alien figures. As for the legs split out. You can see there's ball joints on the inside, quite visible ball joints. The legs go forward and back, swivels at the top, basically where that's attached to the ball joint. Single hinge on the knee. I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, more so this leg right here. And that's a figure-to-figure basis. I don't expect every single figure to be loose in the same place, but it's a little loose on this one side for me. It's not quite to the point where it shakes, but it's a little on the loose side. And then he does have ball-jointed feet. Fancy that. Ball-jointed feet on this figure. I probably will not be displaying it with the plasma bazooka. I think that's a little ridiculous, but I'm really impressed with how this line turned out. I really only just jumped in on this because I like Predator and Alien figures. I sort of went in with very, very low expectation on this line. And if really the rest of this line is as good as what we're seeing with Berserker Predator, I might be pleasantly surprised with some of the stuff that's been coming out with Lanard toys. Far be it for me to go back and retread the same stuff I mentioned already in this review, but my entryway into collecting the Lanard Predator figures started here with Beserker, and already I'm uttering the words pleasantly surprised. Pleasantly surprised that we're getting a 7-inch tall Predator figure, pleasantly surprised that it's a 25 point of articulated figure, because again, I really was expecting straight swiveled arms, straight swiveled legs, and maybe a swivel head. Maybe I went in with such very low expectations. I will say I'm pleasantly disappointed. I guess I wouldn't be pleasantly disappointed, but I am disappointed the fact that the back of the packaging I feel is misleading with its accessories. It doesn't say one accessory per figure. Let me just look around, though. There's no asterisk that leads me to a very small fine print that says one accessory per figure. It doesn't say that. You could use the argument that that's not even the arm of Berserker Predator to start off with. But I feel like they probably should have said one accessory per figure. Because again, I'm looking at that. I'm thinking Berserker's getting all of that stuff. In actual fact, he only gets two. He gets the bazooka, and of course he gets the wrist blades. But I'll give him a pass for that, because of the fact that we get ourselves as posable a figure as we did, with pretty good paint applications. Yes, there's always room for improvement. They put a lot more paint applications on this figure. But really for what it is, if you have a son or daughter at home that is into yaochas, they're, after all, the coolest kid around, coolest kid in school, and you want to get them a Predator figure, I think these ones are the better, safer bet to go. Because the only other options we have available are the NECA stuff. And we all know NECA. I mean, NECA puts out quality, good-looking pieces, but admittingly, they're good for adults. They're not something you're going to be wanting to give to a kid. Because a kid playing around with a NECA Predator figure out maybe in a field, a forest somewhere, hopefully attended. There's somebody's monitoring this child. But they're probably going to be breaking that figure. I don't feel like they're going to be breaking the Lanard figure. So I feel like they're a little bit more user-friendly. Again, this line kind of feels like it bridges a gap between a NECA Predator figure and maybe a Masters of the Universe figure. It's sort of a strange blending of the two. But the end result is good-looking figures. I know, again, I'm only basing it just from one that we've looked at so far. But if Lanard continues the trend that I'm seeing just with the Berserker Predator, it's a pretty good-looking line that they've got in store for collectors out there that want an alternative to collecting NECA Predator figures. Have you collected any of these Lanard pieces for yourself? Let me know, guys, what you think down below of the Lanard Predator line. Of course, they're doing Alien line as well, and a whole bunch of these reviews will be coming up because I had to go online, had to go on eBay, had to pay all that ridiculous pricing, but at least I got a whole bunch of them. So there's going to be a whole bunch of reviews lined up and coming your way. Also, let me know, as your video question for today, what's your favorite movie Predator? What's your favorite movie Predator design? Let me know down below in the comments section. Make sure as well, if you're new to this channel, that you're hitting that subscribe button down below. You're turning the bell notification on. And of course, come back to this channel Monday to Friday, 12 p.m., 2 p.m. You said 2? Yeah. 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 2 videos a day, my friends, my colleagues, my mob. 2 videos a day, and we're going to be looking at more Lanard toys, Predator figures. So there's lots of stuff to keep those peepers peeled on. That's disgusting. That's gross. That's what we do here on this channel. Lots of stuff coming your way, guys. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.